Alright, so hello guys. So for today's session, we'll be discussing parliamentary privileges. So a brief introduction. So the term parliamentary privileges is used in constitutional writings to denote both the types of rights and immunities. Sir Thomas Erskine may have defined the expression parliamentary privileges as follows: the sum of the peculiar rights enjoyed by each house collectively is a constituent part of the High Court of Parliament and by members of each House of Parliament individually, without which they cannot discharge their function and which exceed those possessed by other bodies or individuals. Meaning thereby, it is more or less a set of special privileges given to both the houses in order to enable them so that they can discharge their functions properly. Moving on, Article 105, power, privileges, etc. of the House of Parliament and the members and the committees therefore. Subject to the provision of these constitutions and the rules and standing orders regulating the procedure of Parliament, there shall be freedom of speech in the Parliament. No member of Parliament shall be liable to any proceeding in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in Parliament or any committee thereof, and no person shall be so liable in respect of the publication by or under the authority of either House of Parliament of any report, paper, votes, or proceedings. Third, in other respects, the powers, privileges, and immunities of each House of Parliament and the members and the committee of each House shall be such as may from time to time be defined by the Parliament by law, and until so defined shall those of the House and of its members and committees immediately before coming into the force of Section 15 of the Constitution 44th Amendment Act 1978. The provision of clauses 1, 2, and 3 shall apply in relation to persons who, by the virtue of this Constitution, have the right to speak in and otherwise take part in the proceedings of a House of Parliament or any committee thereof, as they apply in relation to the members of Parliament. So the parliamentary privileges in this video lecture will be defining the parliamentary privileges of both the Houses of Parliament and their members and committees. So the Article 194, which is an exact reproduction of Article 105, deals with the state legislature and their members and committees to enable Parliament to discharge functions properly. The Constitution confers on each member of the House certain rights and immunities, and also certain rights and immunities and the powers on each House collectively. Parliamentary privilege is an essential incident to the high and multifarious function which the legislature is called upon to perform. According to May, the distinctive mark of privilege is its ancillary character, a necessary means to fulfillment of functions. Individual members enjoy privileges because the House cannot perform its functions without unimpeded use of the services of its members and by each House for the protection of its member and the vindication of its own authority and dignity. Moving on, in defining parliamentary privileges, this, like the whole session, will adopt a certain method. Two privileges, namely freedom of speech and freedom of publication of proceedings, are specifically mentioned in clauses 1 and 2. With respect to the other privileges of each House, clause 3 before its amendment in 1978 laid down that the powers, privileges, and immunity shall be those of the House of Commons of the UK and the commencement of the Constitution until they are defined by an Act of Parliament, though since 1978 position has changed in so far as the privileges of Parliament, its members and committees have to be determined on the basis of what they were immediately before the commencement of 1978 amendment, that is before 20th June 1979. So first we'll discuss freedom of speech. Article 105, Clause 1 expressly safeguards freedom of speech in Parliament. It says there shall be freedom of speech in Parliament. Clause 2 further provides that no member of Parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in Parliament or any committee thereof. No action, be it civil or criminal, will therefore lie against a member for defamation or the like in respect of things said in the parliament or its committees. The immunity is not limited to the mere spoken words, but also it extends to votes, as the clause 2 specifically declares, which is any vote given by him in parliament or any committee thereof. Though not expressly stated, the freedom of speech would extend to other acts also done in connection with the proceedings of each house, such as for notices of motions, questions, reports of committee, or the resolutions. It may be noted that Clause 1 of Article 105 is made subject to the provisions of the Constitution and to the rules and standing orders regulating the procedure of the Parliament. The words regulating the procedure of the Parliament occurring in Clause 1 should be read as covering both the provisions of the Constitution and the rules and standing order. So read freedom of speech in Parliament becomes subject to the provisions of the Constitution relating to the procedures of the Parliament, that is, subject to the articles relating to the procedure in Part 5, including Article 107 and 121. Hence, for example, freedom of speech in Parliament would not permit a member to discuss the conduct of any judge of the Supreme Court or of a High Court. Likewise, the freedom of speech is subject to the rules of procedure of a House, such as use of unparliamentary language or unparliamentary conduct. The freedom of speech guaranteed under Clause 1 is different from that which a citizen enjoys as a fundamental right under Article 19 sub Clause 1. The freedom of speech as a fundamental right does not protect an individual absolutely for what he says. The right is subject to reasonable restrictions under Clause 2 of Article 19. The term freedom of speech as used in this article means that no member of parliament shall be liable to any proceedings, be it civil or criminal, in any court for the statements made in debates in the parliament or any committee thereof. The freedom of speech conferred under this article cannot therefore be restricted under Article 19 sub clause 2. Clauses 1 and clauses 2 of Article 105 protect what is said within the House, not what a member of parliament may say outside. Accordingly, if a member publishes his speech outside the parliament, he'll be held liable if the speech is defamatory. Besides, the freedom of speech to which Article 105, subclause 1 and subclause 2 refer would only be available to a member of parliament when he attends the session of the parliament. And if no occasion arises for the exercise of right of freedom of speech and no complaint can be made that the said right has been invalidly invaded. Moving on, Article 105 subclause 2 confirms immunity inter alia in respect of anything said in the parliament. The word anything is of the widest import and it is equivalent to everything. The only limitation arises from the words in the parliament, which means during the sitting of the parliament and in the course of the business of the parliament. Once it was proved that the parliament was sitting and its business was transacted, anything said during the course of that business was immune from proceedings in any court. This immunity is not only complete, but it is as it should be. It is one of the essence of the parliamentary system of the government that people's representatives should be free to express themselves without fear of legal expenses. What they say is only subject to the discipline of the rules of the parliament, the good sense of the members, and the control of the proceedings by the speaker. The courts have no say in the matter and should really have none. In a much publicized matter involving the former Prime Minister, several ministers, members of parliament and others, a divided court in P.V. Narasimha Rao versus State has held that the privilege of immunity from court's proceedings in Article 105 subclause 2 extends even to the bribes taken by the member of the parliament for the purposes of voting in a particular manner in parliament. The majority, that is 3 judges, did not agree with the minority, which was 2 judges, it was a 5-judge bench case, that the words in respect of Article 105 subclause 2 mean arising out of and therefore would not cover conduct antecedent to speech or voting in parliament. The court was, however, unanimous that the members of parliament who gave bribes or who took bribes did not participate in the voting could not claim immunity from court proceedings under Article 105 of Clause 2. The decision was invoked so much, the decision has invoked so much controversy and dissatisfaction that a review petition is still pending in the court. Thank you. We'll discuss further in the next day.